The Shep Naz podcast begins now.
I'll probably give a disclaimer about the kids.
Yeah.
All right. Welcome to the Shep Naz podcast. I'm Joe, and I'm your host today. And we're just going to tell you right off the rip that there is recess going on inside today. So if you hear some kids in the background, that's all right. They're just having a great time, making a little bit of noise.
Yep.
One of the things that we're going to be talking about today is we're going to look at the subject of church membership. And for some people, that's old hat. They've known about it all their lives. For some people, it's a completely new concept. So Pastor Rob's in today, and we're going to talk about church membership.
Yeah. Yes. Welcome. And hey, there could be a lot worse things you could hear on this podcast than kids having fun in the background.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And we're just two kids in here having fun. So.
Oh yeah, we have all our toys here, so it's all good.
Yeah, they just cost more now. Yeah. So today we're talking about membership, and the reason we're talking about that is we have a membership class coming up on Wednesday, March 13th at 6:30. We'll be doing a membership class, and a lot of people who are part of the church maybe have been members for a really long time. I just did the annual report for the denomination, so I happen to know we have 898 members currently. That membership list is broken down into active and inactive, because you obviously have people who become a member and then they maybe move away, or they get mad at the pastor and stop coming or something like that.
That never happens
and
here.
So we have a list of inactive people that are still members. But the idea of church membership has been around for a really long time. I think in the culture that we live in, it's interesting that it's kind of going away. Not all churches do it, and not all churches call them members anymore. Sometimes they have different names for them, and owners maybe is a word that I think I've heard before. But church membership is important. And for us as a denomination, we have church members, and there are a couple of privileges that members have. I shouldn't use the word privileges. Better word is responsibilities. Mm-hmm. And in our church, members vote on a couple of things. Two things, actually. One is they vote on the pastor when a church is calling a pastor. So when a Nazarene church doesn't have a pastor, one of the things that the board does is along with the superintendent, they figure out who a good candidate would be, and then the church board or the entire congregation votes. Okay. So you would have you can't vote me out, but you can vote me in. And so the congregation votes on that. So that's important. That's unique because not all churches have that kind of polity where they have a say, the members have a say in who's going to be the pastor. So when I came here 9 years ago, there was a vote. It was favorable. We won't say it was unanimous, but it was favorable.
You got the majority.
Yeah, we got enough to come. So it's interesting story. One lady, when I came, we came and we did like a sample sermon or something, so they would kind of know how I was, and preached in the gym down there. And after the service, the district superintendent said, "Rob, why don't you and your family spread out? Like all the people in the church are in tables. There's like 600 people in tables." And they're like, he says to my kids, "Why don't you spread out and talk to people?" And my kids look at me like we were going to kill this guy, because they were all young teenagers at the time. And so anyway,
work the room.
Yeah, right. Like a 13-year-old who wants to work the room. But I went to one of the tables, and I think that particular day I was wearing khakis, which I may have not worn khakis since that day, and a sweater or whatever. And the lady says to me, "What do you wear when you preach on Sundays?" I said, "Probably something like this." She goes, "Well, that's not going to work. You're going to need to wear a suit." And I said, "You're going to need to vote for somebody else," because I have a suit that I wear at funerals and weddings, and that's it. So, and so, like, I don't know, 6 or 7 years later, she came up to me and she goes, "I want you to know I was one of those people that voted no for you." And she goes, "But I'm glad it all worked out anyway." So it was great, but
still wish she'd get a suit. But
yeah, I'm sure that's the case. But anyway, that was a roundabout way to say that if one of the things as a member in the church, you vote on the pastor when he comes or she, and then the other thing is if the church is going to buy or sell property, the congregation has a say in that. The members have a say in that. So those are kind of like official polity things that members do, but there's way more beyond that, and I'd like to talk about some of those things. So if you're a member, these are things that you could be doing or should be doing, that we hope that you're doing. If you're not a member and you're thinking, well, why should I become a member? Here is some of the reasons that I think church membership is important. And one of them is that for us as a member, we ask members to make 6 commitments. One of those commitments is that they would be a functioning church member. And part of that is that when we say functioning, we want everybody to have a part and a place. I preached about that last week, that Peter said that we're, living stones and Jesus is the living cornerstone. And what Peter meant by that is that we have a place in the church and a purpose in the church. And it would be ideal if everybody knows what that is and is contributing to that. So as a member in the organization of the church, what we want you to know is that there are responsibilities that you have. And I think that's different than membership in a lot of other organizations. Like when you become a member of many organizations, what that means is that you have perks or privileges that other people don't have. And that's not the way it is in the church with membership, because as a member, you're here to serve and to give, not to receive. And so when I join, like I'm a member of Planet Fitness, I get these privileges and I have these things that I can receive, although it doesn't seem to be working. My muscles are not getting bigger, but my stomach is. But anyway.
You're on the wrong machine.
I am on the wrong machine. I'm on the Coke machine. So membership typically is about being served, right? In most organizations. But in the church, membership means I have responsibilities, and that these responsibilities require me to make sacrifices. So when you become a member of the church, we're not saying, oh, you get a special parking place, you only have to tithe 9% instead of 10%. We're saying you're buying in, you're becoming an owner in this place, and you own it. Jesus told an interesting story about the difference between sons and servants. And there was a story. I did not prepare for this. This is off the cuff, so I'm going to tell this really well.
We'll see how this goes.
But one of the pastors I worked with before talked about this: are you a son or are you a servant? And he talked about how servants, they don't really own anything. They're just doing the job. They're just there because they have to be there. But a son has buy-in. He's like, this place is going to be mine when the old guy's gone, and I own it. So there's a difference between serving because I have to and serving because this is my place. This is something that I own. I'm going to be the owner of this someday. And as a member, what you're saying is that I'm not here to receive the perks and privileges of membership. I'm here because I own it, because I'm bought into it. It's my deal.
And it's kind of like you're buying into not just an organization, but you're buying into the mission.
Right.
You're saying, okay, I see what this church is about. I see where they're headed with ministry, and I want to put my name on the line. I want to be part of that.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. Perfect. Exactly. It's about what I give rather than what I receive, about serving rather than others coming and serving me.
Hey everyone, Pastor Nick here. I'm in Johnstown and I'm on site at our brand new Shepherd Church Johnstown campus location. You can see the church here in the background. We've been hard at work getting this thing ready for our launch Sunday, which is going to be happening on Easter, March 31st at 10:45. We'd love to invite you to help us get the word out. We'll be here on that Sunday, March 31st, 10:45. The address is 280 South Main Street, and we hope to see you soon.
The other thing is that the New Testament talks about the body of Christ and uses a metaphor of the body, right? And everybody who's a part of the body has a role. Every part of our body has a function and a purpose. And in the New Testament metaphor of the church being a body, everybody has a place. We're all individuals, but we have a place in the body, and God has something for us to do. And every single part is necessary. The other part is that members are different, but we all still work together. So we each have that different role and function, but we work together. And then, of course, as members, we want to create an atmosphere of love for other people. And so this whole idea of membership is important because it identifies who the owners are. It identifies to leaders, these are people that I can count on. These are people that have bought into it. They signed on the line. They're willing to sacrifice to see the mission accomplished and move ahead. And I think that's an important thing and a blessing. Some churches who don't have that, they have members who serve and those kinds of things. But I think this idea of membership is just taking it a step further and saying, I believe in this organization. I believe in the church. I believe in the mission. I believe what God's called me to do. This is the local body that I want to connect to and serve and sacrifice in and see the mission go forward. So there's a lot of value in that, and I think that's one of the things about church membership that's important. The other thing, I've said this before, that the church really is the only organization that exists for people that aren't still a part of it.
Right.
And as a member, what we're saying is that I'm not coming to be a member here because of what I'm going to get. I'm coming to be a member here because there's people that aren't a part of it, and I want to bring them in and be a part of it as well. It's not an exclusive thing. So it's me working hard to get other people to be involved in it.
One thing that I was wondering if you'd be willing to address, I know we've got a lot of other areas we're going to go into, but I think sometimes people get confused when they say, I'm a church member. Can you speak to differentiating that between my relationship with the church and my relationship with God? How church membership is not getting me to heaven.
Right.
Could you kind of address that for a second?
Yeah. So one of the things that to be a member, one of the underlying assumptions that we would want to address is that you do have a relationship with Jesus, but being a member doesn't get you into heaven. It doesn't make you special. It doesn't give you special status or anything like that. What being a member does is it identifies to leaders who's in. And in the church, we have a lot of, in our church specifically, we have a lot of people there. There may be, there's, a lot of people that are attenders that serve in ministry that aren't members. And it doesn't, there's not like a status ranking or whatever, and to look at people you would never know. And sometimes I might not even know if someone's been a member for a really long time or whatever. But there's no, nothing special about being a member, and nothing special about, what I'm trying to say is that, so we have attenders and members. They're in the same together. They do the same thing, but this idea of membership gives you some responsibilities that an attender wouldn't necessarily have in terms of the future and the direction and the vision that the church sets. Right. Because you have a voice in who would be the leader in a leadership transition, and what are we going to do with the resources that we have? Are we going to hold on to them? Are we going to release them? How are we going to use them? And so I guess it gives you a seat at the table where you have a voice, whereas if as an attender, you matter, you're important, all those things, but you don't have that voice because you haven't said, I'm all in.
Right. And you haven't said, I want to have a voice, right. You haven't taken that step.
Yeah.
And we just recently had elections because our fiscal year ended. Yeah. And so one of those roles for members is, potentially serving on the board. Right.
Correct.
And so that was one thing that church members vote for, is they see who's going to represent the membership on the church board.
Yeah. And I think, and that's a very important, you got to be a member to be on the board also.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so to be a member to vote for who's on the board. And I think that's an important process. It's not kind of a given thing. It's something that should be prayed about. And I think that God puts people on the board for specific times and purposes. And over the years, I've seen that, when certain people get on a board, that during that time that they're serving, there are things that happen in the church or that happen in culture that the church has to respond to. And God has put the right people on the board at the right time who have special giftings or discernment or can help lead the church through whatever it might be facing, challenges or something like that. And so, you have the opportunity to serve in a leadership position on the board, and you have the opportunity to vote on that. Now, you can still serve in the church if you're not a member. We have people who lead small groups and serve in ministry roles that are not members. We don't require that to necessarily be a member, but it is required to be on the board. That's a good point that you brought up.
All right, so I know I probably threw you off, but there were some other areas you wanted to get into as far as the facets of membership. Yeah.
So the other thing that we ask a member to commit to is that they would be a unifying member, and that when you become a member, what you're saying is, I'm in with the vision, I'm in with the direction that the church is going, and because I believe in those things, I'm going to do my best to bring unity to the church. And if you've been in the church for if you've been in the church for a day, you probably know this is not always the case. Sometimes there are folks that are not unifying. They may want to have conversations about other people in the church that are not necessarily uplifting.
What?
Or they may want to talk about the leadership, or can you believe so-and-so did this or so-and-so said that? And what we ask people who are making a commitment to membership is to say, I'm not going to contribute to those kinds of things. In fact, I'll do my best to stop those kinds of things when I hear them, because there's power in unity, but there's power from the enemy in divisiveness.
Sure.
And I used to always say, or someone said it a lot more than I have, but I say it now. But most of us carry around 2 buckets all the time. One's got gas in it, one's got water in it. And when we walk upon these conversations or scenarios where people are upset or frustrated or talking about something somebody said or did or whatever, we literally can take the bucket of gas and throw gas on this fire and make it bigger by continuing to gossip or saying, I know, I can't believe that or whatever. Or we can throw water on it and say, that this isn't the way we should talk about people. If you have a problem with someone, I'd encourage you to go to that person and talk to them. Or if you have a problem with something that a leader has done, you should talk to them. I mean, that's what Jesus said to do. Go to the person that's offended you and try to work it out. And so while it seems like just a normal, regular thing that every believer should do, we think that it's important enough that we would identify that as a responsibility of a member to be a unifying member and not try to add, gas to a fire, but put water on it. And so that means avoiding gossip, having a forgiving heart when people do things or say things to you or other people, and just helping people to find their place in the church. Unity is huge, and it's the responsibility of every member. And if we have a unified church, there's great power in the power of unity in the church.
Well, we've got about 4 more or 5 more areas we're going to get into, but I think we've at least had a little bit of discussion about what church membership is, and we'll cut it off here for today.
Yeah, great.
And then tomorrow, we're going to go into some of the other areas. So for today, we know that we're supposed to be a functioning member, and we're supposed to be a unifying member.
Yep.
And tomorrow we'll go into some more areas about the facets of membership in church. Also, keep in mind, we are starting a membership class on March 13th, which will be next Wednesday. You can check out details on shepnaz.org. Also to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. For Pastor Rob, I'm Joe. Have a great day. This podcast is a production of the Shepherd Church of the Nazarene, Gahanna, Ohio. Email to podcast@shepnaz.org and let us know what you think.